Thank you for joining us. My name is Chad Sumners. I am a education specialist here at Foundations Inc. Welcome to the Beyond the Conference webinar series. We'll be getting started shortly, but before we do, I just want to give you a little background on Foundations. So we're a national educational nonprofit located in Mount Laurel, New Jersey. And our mission is to improve the quality of educators um, by building the skills of building this capacity and the skills of educators to work across the school day with after school programs, school districts, and states to create a brighter future for every child every day. If you're interested in learning more about Foundations, you can follow us on social media, and I'm going to drop those in the chat for you in just a second. So you might already know us from our signature professional learning experience, the Beyond School Hours Conference. It's held each winter. In 2027, we will be in New Orleans from February 17th to the 20th, and we'd love to have you all be our guests. So welcome to part 4 of our sustainability training series. Today, we're going to be talking about training and empowering staff. So this is the 4th and final strand of our web of sustainability. I'm really excited to work through it with you today. So we'll get started in a second. Wanted to let you know that this is going to be available for you on YouTube. It'll also be archived on our website. Also, anybody that wants a certificate of attendance, stay to the end, fill out our feedback form, and you'll get your certificate of attendance. So let's jump into who we are and why we're talking to you about this good work. So I'm Chad Sumners. I am an education specialist here at Foundations, and I come from a special ed and English teacher background, but I also come from a background in out of school time. I had the opportunity to start as a frontline staff, and I just sort of worked my way up. You get more and more responsibilities piled on you until you're the one training and empowering staff. So I'm really excited to talk about ways in which we can make sure our staff feel like they can move the work forward. And with me today is Genevieve.
Hi, I'm Genevieve Dupuis. I'm also an education specialist here at Foundations. I come from a background of special education as well, with a focus on math education. My background in the OST space has been in supporting students and programs in developing and building from the ground up, and I'm excited to be with you today.
All right, let's jump in.
So, welcome back to part 4 of Sustainability Series. If you've been with us for the parts 1 through 3, you've already built 3 strands of your web of sustainability: leveraging data, diversifying funding, and building strategic partnerships. Today, we're going to add the 4th and final strand, which is training and empowering your staff. If this is your first session with us, welcome. And don't worry, everything today will stand on its own. And as we go on, we'll give you the 2-minute versions of what you missed so that you can understand how it all ties together. We are going to start today with a quick poll. So we would like to know which of the strands feel strongest in your program right now. Is it leveraging data, diversifying funding, strategic partnerships, or empowering your staff?
So we're going to launch that poll right now, and we'll wait for responses to come in.
All right. While that's up, think of one specific staff member on your team. It doesn't have to be your strongest or most senior person, just someone who's real. Keep that person in mind as we'll be returning to them throughout today's workshop to do some planning. All right. Now we're going to share the results.
Oh, yeah. No surprise, really, though, right? Staff empowerment's usually the strand we invest the least in.
So that's exactly why we're here today. We're going to focus on staff empowerment. So the question is, why staff? We talked about data, funding, and partnerships, and now we're moving on to staff because every staff member can strengthen the web of sustainability. Staff are the backbone of our program. They lead activities, build relationships, and they represent the program in the community. Sustainability isn't only the CEO or the director's job. Every staff member can contribute through their network, their communication, and their knowledge of the program. So data gives staff the evidence they need to point to. Funding gives staff a clear picture of the dollars. Partnerships give staff a map of who to work with. And then the staff, the strand that we're talking about today, they bring it all together with confidence and they grow and push the work forward. Today, you're going to leave with 3 practical strategies: network mapping, talking points, and PD and leadership planning. Plus, we'll explore a case study that applies to and apply it to the staff member that you just picked. So our next activity, we're going to start with a chat box activity. So I want you to drop one word in the chat that describes how confident you feel that your staff could explain the program's value to a stranger in one sentence. So I'll give you a moment to do that. Okay.
Already getting some responses. All right. Yeah. Worried. Okay.
Not confident.
Just not. Okay. But not is also a response. Okay. Fair enough. Yeah.
So today we're going to build that confidence together for ourselves and for our staff in just a few minutes.
So every staff member has a network. Every staff member has a network leadership never sees, right? We're talking about our personal network. We're talking about our professional network, the services that we do, the businesses that we frequent, and in this increasingly digital age, our digital network. Staff networks often reach different communities than leadership networks, which expands your program's whole web of potential partnerships. Let's think about it, right? In your personal web, you have your family, your friends, neighbors, community, or the cultural groups that you might belong to. When it comes to your professional realm, we're talking about former colleagues, maybe professional associations that you're involved in, alumni networks, maybe even if you're part of a Greek organization. Service. So think about the people that you interact with when it comes to healthcare, social services, other youth serving organizations. And then when we're talking about our businesses, you're talking about vendors that you might interact with during your daily work, some contractors that you might employ in your business, or just other local business owners that might be tuned in to what you're doing in your program. And then our digital realm means these social media groups. These might be people that we've never even met in real life, but we still have deep interpersonal connections with them because of the digital age in which we live in. There are also a lot of virtual professional communities where it's just, people of all the same profession getting together and just working to support each other in the struggles that they have going on. So here's a quick preview of the Brighter Futures case study that we'll dig into a little bit later. We have a staff member's church connection that led directly to a partnership with a credit union president. A connection leadership never even knew existed. So let's map it. Let's practice this together live. I'd like you to take 30 seconds to think about real connections you have for each one of these categories. I'll add each category to the chat one at a time. Once I type the category, type a real connection you have in it, but don't hit enter until I say go, okay? We'll do this for each one of the categories in turn that you see on screen. So if you don't think of one in time, don't worry about it. Just start thinking about the next one. So let's start with personal. Let me know some things that pop up when you think about people in your personal network, right? Finance, siblings, yes, siblings. Fiance. Sorry, that would be me misreading a word, which is embarrassing as an English teacher. Yes, absolutely. Your fiance, your siblings, your cousins, your parents, your larger family, right? The people that they know, right? Because then we can take it a step further out and think about the people that they know and how it impacts them and how we could bring them in. Absolutely. So let's think about our professional network, right? What are some resources in our professional network? Some real connections that we have that could also be tied to our after school program. Colleagues, yeah, absolutely.
LinkedIn
Oh,
connections.
absolutely. LinkedIn connections. Yeah, seriously. Talk about like the digital age. And it's funny because LinkedIn is sort of that combination between professional and digital networks.
Yeah,
It's sort of
a
trying to
little
be that bridge there. And I think it's succeeding. I don't know. If you're listening to LinkedIn, good on you. Okay. So what about the service realm, right? When we think about our network of like the different services that we interact with, let's think about people in those realms, real connections that we have in those that we can then bring in, like that we touchstones that might be helpful for us. I think about just like the healthcare professionals that I see on a regular basis. That's certainly something. Oh yeah, local family services center. Absolutely. If you have any interaction with them, that's a really good thing. I also want to call out different community service organizations in this realm too. That's something that I feel like gets overlooked. There are a lot of just like community organizations that are there to support that good work that you're doing. So now let's talk about businesses, right? Think about the businesses that you frequent and how some of those real connections you have with those businesses or those contractors or what have you um, can actually inform and support the work that you're doing with your out of school time program. This is a time when I think about bringing in like local businesses, particularly if the families are already involved in, our out of school time work, then like,
right.
and that's something that you have to explore within the personal connections and network mapping, which we'll get to in a second. But you'd be surprised just how many of these resources are there in your local area, and you don't know them, or you
You
haven't
got to be
discovered
tapped
them.
into
You
them.
gotta be,
Yeah.
right? Your local shop, right? Local.
Grocery stores are a
Mhm.
great business connection.
Yes. Grocery stores are awesome. Local restaurants are awesome. There's so many things we can do when it comes to family engagement nights. There are so many things that we can do with long-term partnerships. They can get us hooked up with additional resources when it comes to helping out our programs. Absolutely. Now, let's end with the our digital resources, right? The network of digital folks that we know that we probably never even met in real life. But regardless of whether we've met them, we still have real connections with these people that we can use to help develop our programs, help develop our staff. I think about sometimes, particularly because a lot of businesses, now have an increasingly digital presence. I think about like businesses that you might interact with digitally, but you've never actually like, talked to people in person there. I think that's an excellent point. I think it's also it's also amazing to look at what different influencers can do and how if those influencers have passions that are aligned with what you're doing, that's something that you could bring in.
Youth that we led a training and we've been in contact for years now
Yeah, absolutely.
through digital.
Yeah, and that's digitally, right? So like they led a training and now that led to a real lasting partnership that develops resources that can help our program and our community at large. So this is an activity that you can do with your own staff. I encourage you to use this framework that we have here on screen. Put it on a whiteboard, put it on chart paper, wherever you can. We've developed, as part of our sustainability toolkit, an individual network mapping tool and a network mapping worksheet that you can use to do this. It's found on pages 115 to 119 of the sustainability toolkit.
We're going to drop that link in the chat for the sustainability toolkit.
Yeah.
So once you have figured out your network, identifying connections is a great first step, right? Now, these people in our network need to be prepared with consistent messaging. That is what turns everyday interactions into opportunities for program growth. So every staff member should be able to articulate your program's value in 30 to 60 seconds. In other words, they should be able to do an elevator pitch for your program. The elevator pitch framework that we have shared here, as well as in the sustainability toolkit, has 4 parts to it. A hook that grabs attention, a 1 to 2 sentence program description, an impact statement that it contains a real data point, and a call to action. Let's look a little bit more at this. So here is an example from our case study. Sophia's pitch to healthcare providers says many of the families I work with are dealing with multiple stressors. Last year, 89% of our elementary students improved their reading levels, and 95% of families reported feeling more connected to their community. We'd love to explore how we can work together. So notice in her pitch how she leads with empathy, right? She talks about the stressors they're facing. And then she immediately follows up with real numbers. She ends with a call to action that leaves the door open. How can we explore? We can explore how to work together, opens the door to the person that she is pitching to. To learn more about customizing your talking points and elevator pitch, we have a tool in the toolkit, which is an elevator pitch worksheet template on pages 120 to 121 of the toolkit. And this can help you to modify your pitch to the various audiences that you're speaking to. So now we're going to do an activity in the chat. We have some sentence stems here to help you develop your elevator pitch. So in the chat, you're going to fill in the blanks to help fill in that program description. So the blanks we have here are we know blank. That's why our program blank, last year blank. So we're going to drop that in the chat for you to have you fill in the blanks and try to develop your elevator pitch. And if anybody would like to come off mute or share their response in the chat, we would love to hear them.
So as you're thinking, you want to consider, okay, I know some data point, some need that exists in our community. And that's why our program does blank to support that need. And so last year we made improvements in that by doing this, like, we achieved this last year.
I'll take a stab at an example.
Do it.
All right. So we know that our students are struggling greatly with their math achievement. That's why our program instituted tutoring services during our regular homework time, where students who are struggling can get support from older kids. Last year, we helped 12 sixth graders pass their math class.
That's
and that
amazing.
might be a way that I pitch it to other people that we're trying to recruit as tutors, show that the impact is there to recruit them.
And that's incredibly impactful, right? It has data, it has what we're doing, and it has proof that it works. That's really, that takes telling the story of your program from, oh, we're doing great things, to here is a clearly defined way in which we are making a positive impact in the community.
Yeah, and it's not easy, right? Coming up with those specifics can be a little bit difficult. That's why we have these planning templates. And we would like to ask you a question now. We're going to launch a poll to see what has been the toughest part of pitching your program. Has it been finding the right data point, keeping it under 60 seconds, confidence in your message, or knowing your audience? Oh, we have somebody that said they just did a pitch today.
Lorelai, if you're feeling brave enough to unmute, we would love to hear about the pitch that you had to do today and who you did it to.
Hi, I am in a loud room. I'm so sorry. So I'm Lorelai Estrella. I'm from Gresham, Oregon. I work with high school students in our after-school program through our county. And
awesome.
I happened to party crash the athletic coaches meeting today. And I was like, hey, let me introduce myself. And I gave my intro and I said, I know that you have students who are athletes and there is a gap of time between after school and when practice starts. So I would love to invite them into our homework club, just so that way they can get in on the session for tutoring if they need it, get a meal, hang out and be in a safe environment rather than being unsupervised for a big chunk of time. And there was maybe 40 people in the room, and I was like, I can talk more about it, but I just wanted to introduce myself in in this space and just just let me know if you ever need anything. I'm happy to help out anytime. Because I know a lot of your students personally, and I know sometimes they struggle with like homework or getting work done because they're in sports. So we're here to help, and it went pretty well.
I love that. And you had all the pieces, right? Like you had what's in it for me, you had what like the thing that you're doing to like address a need that you've already identified, and you've had how impactful it's already been. I also love the, hey, this is what's in it for you, right? Because like this means that your athletes don't have a bunch of unsupervised, unstructured time
Right.
where they don't have anything to do and can sometimes get in trouble, right? Like, no, instead, they can get all their homework done before practice, and now they can lock in on practice. Love that. Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah,
Yeah, no
definitely
problem. Thank you.
of knowing your audience. That's just all I was gonna say.
Yeah,
Just
that's it. Crafting the pitch for your audience. Yeah.
yeah. Okay, so looking at these poll responses, it looks like the major responses are keeping it under 60 seconds and confidence. And that is totally understandable, particularly when you are trying to not only have the pitch for yourself, but have staff members across the organization be able to share an effective pitch. So practice, 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 I think makes perfect when those are the issues, because the more you say it, the more confident you'll be in your delivery, and the more you'll be able to tighten it up and know what to say to what particular members of your audience to have the most impact. So thank you all for sharing that. Now we are gonna just remember that the data from part 1 of this series is what really informs our elevator pitch, right? Having real data points is what makes it effective. And the strategic relationships that we discussed in part 3 are those people that we are going to be pitching to. So if you need to revisit these sessions, please take a look at our website and our YouTube page to have a refresher on these sessions. So this is really the communication and marketing piece of your sustainability. And this is an area where it's really valuable to invest time in developing all of your staff members so that they can be ready with an efficient elevator pitch. Now we're going to transition into discussing some other areas of sustainability development that can be brought to specific members of your staff.
That's right. So not every staff member needs training in every single thing, right? I know that it can feel like that, and it feels like we need to train every single staff member up and make sure they have every single piece of institutional knowledge. Professional development should really be aligned to specific needs. So grant writing and fundraising, partnership, these are the skills that matter most to staff who own compliance and resource development. But the communication and storytelling, that matters for your entire team, because everyone shapes the day-to-day evidence that becomes your best message. So the sustainability toolkit, they list 6 sustainability-focused professional development areas. You see them on screen. We have grant writing and fundraising, partnership development, data collection and analysis, and communication and marketing. Then we have program evaluation and leadership development. Now, there are a lot of different reasons why you might want to, try to coach everybody up in every single thing. You might have somebody that started your program. You're like, I love this person. They're going to be the next me, and I want to download all of this information on them right now. Even if that's the case, even if you're trying to train your replacement, right? We still have to start one piece at a time. So an example for me is when I got moved up into the program director role, I knew that was coming the year before. So I was a site coordinator. I had somebody that was awesome at my site. I knew that I needed to get them all of the information that was required to do like all of the behind the scenes stuff that they didn't know, because they were basically in my front of house, right? Like they were the ones that were like, moving and shaking and making sure all this was, making sure all the boxes were checked. So at first I started with, okay, we're doing all of it. I'm going to train you up in all of these areas right now at the same time. The look of panic on this staff member's face. And this is an incredibly capable staff member, way more organized than I could ever hope to be, but full deer in headlights look. And that's when I realized, like, okay, hold on. we'll take this step by step. Let's start with the areas where you're already doing good work, and we'll talk about how that's deepened, right? Like how the behind the scenes work informs that. Then we'll move on to stuff that you really aren't privy to, right? Like the data collection, analysis, and then we'll talk about that piece by piece so that you feel prepared with each one of those and you don't feel it.
Well, that was good of you to recognize. I think you could lose really good people if you overwhelm them with too much. So
it's
to do that.
Yeah, it's so easy. It's a shame because then you watch a good person walk out the door and you're like, that's probably my fault. So you want to add to this 4 different leadership pathways. We have our emerging leaders, we have our developing leaders, our established leaders, and our senior leaders. So in that example that I was giving before, I consider that a developing leader, right? They already have some aspects of one of the 6 parts that we've just talked about, one of the 6 aspects of sustainability focused PD areas, right? But they needed coaching in a lot more things. So we needed to move them from developing to established. And that was what I did intentionally with the training program that I set forth for them throughout the rest of that year. And that person is still not at that site. That person is now a program director, like still an out of school time program. So they've moved up to a senior leader. But that's how we slowly move these people up the track, right? When it comes to those emerging leaders, like another really good example that I have is I had a student that was in college in my program when I was a site coordinator, and they were great. They had great things that I considered building blocks for a good program staff member, but there was a great deal of training that needed to get them to a point where I felt like I could have them confidently lead something. So moving that person from the emerging to the developing wasn't about like, oh, okay, you already know what all these areas are. It started lower, right? It started at a bird's eye view of, okay, let's take a look at all the different parts of the program, and I'm going to show you how they all fit together. And then eventually we'll start talking about what all of the depth of that program and what the details of each one are. But I just want you to get the big picture and see how all of these things are aligned, right? So it's a different approach to the training and the leadership development, depending on which pathway you have the leader on at the moment. Leadership development belongs at every level, not just the top. That's what makes a program resilient when one person leaves or hits the lottery or what have you.
So important to develop those emerging leaders kind of before you even know that you're going to need them, because you eventually will.
That's it. Yeah, because you're not going to be there forever. No matter how long you're there, it's never forever. So we're going to do a little activity, right? Bring back the staff member that you thought of earlier in this session when we asked you to recall a staff member who does some really good work in your program. And if they left, there might be a gap in that knowledge, right? They might have some knowledge that they hold that nobody else holds. So think of that person. And then in the chat, I'd like you to jot down 2 things for me. 1 sustainability area for growth that fits them, and which leadership pathway, emerging, developing, established, or senior, that they're on right now. Go ahead and post it in the chat. No names required, mind you. Just give me the PD area, the sustainability area, and the leadership pathway that you see this person on. Established, yeah, that's good. I like that. It's always good to have somebody where you know that they're the holder of these relationships, and it does mean that you don't have to hold all of them. And it means that you don't have to do every single communication with these partners. And eventually, they can become your community czar, right? They can become the person who knows all of the people and knows what phone call to make in order to get what you need done. Communication and marketing emerging, right? That's always great. I like the idea. It's like, okay, I see these amazing skills in you. Let's talk about at a very high level what it means to have really impactful marketing and communication that is very clear. And then you can start moving them up that ladder, right? We can start talking about how we can turn them into a developing leader. So I'm noticing a couple of patterns just immediately right here. I'm noticing that like we are sometimes fairly often on the lower tier of this. And I think these lower, like these earlier leadership pathways, that tells me that you see the early signs in really great leaders, but it might be difficult to figure out how you're going to coach them up and then really bring that out of them. Think about your broader team, right? What does it mean if this staff member that's holding your partnership development disappears, right? Do we have any succession planning in place? Do we have another staff member that we've trained up behind our established partner development person? Is the person that's our emerging leader somebody that we are training up to come and support people who are already doing that good work? These are the kind of things you need to think of. And then you need to think about one concrete step that you can take to move that staff member along this pathway, right? A professional development plan that meets them where they are and then slowly raises them. Seeing potential in staff, but not having the capacity to support them at the level they need is a challenge. It truly is. It truly is. It's like, okay, I know that this is in you. I just don't know how to bring it out of you. And that's tricky. And that's why we need to make sure that we have very intentional trainings when it comes to our staff. And we're not trying to train every single thing. We're trying to drill down into what we think is really a strength for that staff member and then bring it to the surface. So because this is the same staff from the start of the session, you've just drafted the first steps to a real person for a real plan live right now to make sure that there's succession in place. Let's look at our case study. It shows 3 strategies working together in one real program, and it connects the staff strand back to the funding and the partnerships. So when Bright Futures Community Learning Center began their sustainability planning process, Executive Director Maria Rodriguez realized that sustainability couldn't rest solely on her shoulders. With funding uncertainties and growing community needs, she knew the center's long-term success depended on her empowering her entire team to support the web sustainability. So the center employed 8 different staff members. We have Maria Rodriguez, she's the executive director. We have James Chen, he's the program coordinator. We have Sophia Martinez, the elementary program lead and the bilingual social worker. And we have Marcus Thompson, the middle and high school program lead. We also have Elena Vasquez. She is the family engagement coordinator. And we have David Park, who is he's a part-time art instructor. We also have an administrative assistant, Angela Foster, and we have a maintenance and security person, part-time, Carlos Rivera. Just a little heads up about sustainability in general. Those maintenance and security people, they are your backbone. Make friends with them, bribe them if you have to, get them on your side. So Maria recognized that while she handled most external relationships and funding, her staff had untapped networks and skills that could significantly support sustainability efforts. Maria worked with her team and had each one of them complete an individual network mapping tool to highlight their own networks. So we have Sophia. Sophia's personal connection through her church led to a partnership with a credit union president for financial literacy programming, which is something that all programs need, right? Then we have Marcus. Marcus's relationship with his former principal opened the door to a middle school tutoring collaboration. And we have Elena's sister's catering business, which became a primary in-kind donor. None of these people were in Maria's network. They only surfaced because the whole team did the network mapping that did the mapping exercise that you just did. So we want to think about the different connections that our staff have, right? Because it exponentially expands the possibilities that are there for our program. There are so many people that we don't even know that our staff are in contact with. I remember I had a staff member, and I was talking to them, and I found out that their uncle ran a catering business, and I was like, wait, how? So just like Elena, I was like, wait, so you're telling me that we could work something out,
Yeah.
and we can make this work for our family engagement nights? Huge level up for our family
Yeah,
engagement
and
nights.
sometimes businesses and community members, they might be more likely to do an in-kind donation because it takes a lot less out of them than like a financial donation. So
Absolutely.
tapping into those networks can give you access to things you would not have had before.
And I encourage you, it can be tempting to, once you find out the connection that Sophia, Marcus, Elena has, to be like, oh, okay, put me in contact with them. I encourage you to let those people be the keepers of those relationships. And then you only have to get involved once we start doing the real work of building the partnership with the program. Let them develop the relationship. Don't take it over, because again, those people will be far more receptive to that messaging coming from this person with whom they already have a connection than with you, where you just slide in and you're like, oh, so I heard you know Sophia, right? So Sophia told me you could take care of this for me.
And I know as a leader, it could be a little bit daunting to have somebody lead that, but when we equip them with the right talking points, we have a lot less worry about that. Right?
Exactly. Like if they have their elevator pitch already, then it's very easy to then go, oh, here's the need that we're meeting, here's how we're meeting it, and here is how we've already shown progress. Then all of a sudden the business owner goes, oh, okay. Or all of a sudden, the principal that is normally walking while you're talking to them, they stop in the middle of the hallway and they turn to you and go, oh, wait, hold on. You said what about standardized test scores? All right, now I'm listening. Right. It's about getting that buy-in, and it's about knowing your audience.
So these people have identified their connections, but then they need to pitch their organization to those connections. So listen to how differently Sophia and Marcus's pitch for the same organization are. So Sophia is talking to healthcare providers, and she says, many of the families I work with are dealing with multiple stressors, language barriers, work instability, and limited resources. At Brighter Futures, we provide a safe, supportive environment where their children can succeed academically. Last year, 89% of our elementary students improved their reading levels, and 95% of families reported feeling more connected to their communities. We'd love to explore how we can work together. So that is Sophia's pitch to healthcare providers. And then Marcus's pitch to education professionals for the same organization sounds like this. Our middle and high school students face significant challenges. 78% are from low-income families, and many are first-generation college hopefuls. Through our after-school and evening programs, we're building futures. Our students show 25% higher graduation rates than district average, and 85% enroll in post-secondary education. We'd love to have a conversation about the possibilities. So you'll see same organization, same mission, but each pitch was tailored to what the specific audience cares most about. Sophia's pitch to healthcare providers talked about how the families are feeling, right? Because that is important to the healthcare provider. Marcus's pitch, on the other hand, was towards education professionals. And so they're concerned with those post-secondary outcomes. How are they getting their kids to graduation and what's happening after? So they utilize different data points to highlight what is important to the audiences that they were speaking to.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's really the whole point of practicing, right? The more that we utilize the data that we have and we practice our pitch, we'll be more able to kind of just vary it for the person that we are networking with.
Yeah, you'll get more and more comfortable pivoting on the fly.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
And it's interesting because these are, again, the same format that we gave you guys earlier, the same sentence framing, but each individual element of it is changed. Even the need that's identified in the beginning is changed because of the audience with whom we're talking, right? You're letting people know, look, the thing that matters to you matters to us. And we are doing the good work of making a positive impact in that area. And then here is the hard, concrete proof. The numbers speak for themselves.
And I just want to make one quick point too about the call to action. Both of them left the door open, and that's really a powerful thing for any staff member to be able to do. We're really just trying to make that connection and make the most out of the interaction. So saying, we'd love to talk about the possibilities, or we'd love to see how we can work together, kind of does a call to action without putting too much pressure, and it makes it something that anyone on staff can do.
Absolutely. And then when it comes to, engaging these people in partnerships, it's always good to have several different pathways to do that. Like,
Right.
look, you could do a larger one-time donation. We could do in kind, we could do like 2 sessions that are $500, having different options and different levels of engagement so that if you get a no, you can just sort of pivot and alter it. Like, okay, well, maybe it's no at that level, but what about here? Can you meet me here? And then maybe next year we get back up here, right?
So let's see how this turned out for Bright Futures. Based on their sustainability needs, BFCC invested in several targeted PD areas, each with specific staff members who would focus on these areas of growth. After they identified the areas for PD, Maria looked towards areas of growth for leadership development among her team. She began tracking BFCC's staff goals, milestones, growth, and impact. Through staff empowerment with PD and leadership opportunities, BFCC achieved the following. They expanded their network. Staff connections led to 12 new partnerships. They increased their funding. Staff-led initiatives generated $87,000 in new funding. They enhanced their capacity. Multiple staff members were able to represent the program across different settings. They improved retention. Because staff were more satisfied, turnover decreased. And they had more of a distributed leadership model, meaning that the sustainability efforts were no longer solely Maria's responsibility. They were not only the executive director who had to shoulder that burden. Every member of the staff played some role in sustaining the program. So we have a quote from one of the employees, James Chen, who said, "I never realized how many connections I had that could help our families. I'm not just a program coordinator, I'm a community connector." So by learning to tell their story clearly and confidently, it really made the staff better advocates for the students and family they serve. And that's everybody's goal at the end of the day.
Absolutely. I think this is a really important point, right? Because it shows how this training in the staff links to all the other things that we've talked about in the sustainability toolkit. And as you empower your staff to go out and seek these new partnerships, that's what creates that web of sustainability that can help support your programming when your funding starts to decrease, right? Look at how many resources we've acquired just through the network mapping of our staff, and look how impactful that can be for continuing positive programming that we've already proven has significant benefits for our community. That's what it's about, right? Sustainability is about finding the resources in your community and then bringing them together to support the good work that you're doing after that main pillar of your funding is gone. That's what we're here for. So, which piece of this story is closest to something that's already happening on your team? And which piece feels the furthest away? Go ahead and add into the chat what you think. Let me know what feels like you're the closest to doing right now, and which piece of this feels like, oh man, we have a lot of work to do in order to get to this point. And this is a safe space, Mike. I just want you to know that it's okay if there are several pieces that feel far away from you. That's all right. That's why we're here, and that's why we developed the sustainability toolkit for you.
I see a couple of people are saying staff empowerment. So hopefully some of these tools can be useful in that future planning so that you're not feeling like burdened by introducing these areas. They're planned into your professional development schedule so that you can fit them in.
Absolutely. And it's worth noting that this professional development that you're doing alone isn't actually going to make the changes that we outlined up there, right? That these professional development changes that we're suggesting, the things that we're the ways that we're suggesting in training and developing leaders in your staff, that lets them go and pull in strands of their web that then strengthens your web of sustainability for your program. So I want you to think about why Brighter Futures needed all three strategies working together, like the network mapping, the pitch, and the PD leadership planning to get the results that we just looked at instead of just one. If we just map the networks, then that's good, right? But we have no way of effectively telling our story to these potential partners. So how can we get that buy-in from them? If we just worked on the pitch, then to whom are we pitching, right? Like there's
just waiting for
just
opportunities.
waiting, yeah, just sitting in the line at the grocery store. And look, don't discount that. There are plenty of connections that I've made just be like picking up takeout or whatever. That's why having that pitch available just like in your back pocket is awesome. Because the second somebody turns to you and goes, "Oh, what do you do?" At like, you know, I'll cook out or whatever. Boom, you hit them with the pitch.
You'll never know where opportunity can come, but when you are being strategic, then you have more of an opportunity to get what you need for your program.
Mm-hmm. And that's it. Like all of these pieces feed into each other. So I want you to think about if you closed your furthest away gap in the next 90 days, what's one move? What would move your program the most? Like what would improve your program? What would improve in your program most if you closed the sustainability gap that we're talking about in the next 90 days? So now let's get specific, right? I want you to think again about your staff member, the one that we've been visiting throughout the course of this training. In the chat, finish this sentence for me. I will use this tool with a staff member identified at or during a specific moment, maybe a one-on-one team meeting, a shift change, something like that, because it will have this impact on the staff member. So I'm going to go ahead and paste this frame in here for you, and I will give you an example. So, for example, this week, I will use training, maintaining partnerships, creating, maintaining partnerships, right? With a staff member at dismissal, because I've already identified that this staff member, they've got some natural charisma. I know that they're already starting to make these connections, but I want to make sure that they have a pitch for when they're talking to the families, right? Because they can then give that messaging to families, and that family can then take that message and bring it through word of mouth to so many different people. It's crazy how many people, once you start throwing these pitches out into the wild, how many people circle back to you at some moment and they're like, "Oh, hey, I heard that you do blah, 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 and that blah, blah, blah." It's like, that's crazy because I've never even spoken to you, but thank you for the compliment about the good work. So go ahead and add into the chat the filled in sentence frame here. So I will use the tool or strategy with the member that you identified at a specific moment because blank. Okay. So this one came in just to us, not into the public chat, but that's okay. So this week I will use coaching with a staff member at the I identified at staff meetings because I see potential in them. So I like that. I think we can drill down into it more, right? We want to talk about intentionally what we're coaching up in the staff, like what skill we're looking to foster in that staff member. I like the fact that we've identified our staff meetings, maybe like that. Maybe it's like that like 5 seconds before the kids like walk through the door, that moment where we're having that conversation perhaps. And then so what is the thing that you've actually identified that is really good that you want to coach up, right? And I think once you clarify the tool and the strategy in that statement, I think that you'll have a really impactful plan for getting that person coached up and feeling like they're ready.
So maybe it would be helpful to finish the sentence like, I see potential too, and like what they can impact.
Yes,
kind of
yeah.
help you clarify what you're coaching them
I
on.
like that. Yeah, like I see their potential to, be an amazing communicator for our program, right? Absolutely. So I want you to think about what obstacles you're most likely to face when you're trying to do this. Like when you've already identified what your action is going to be, what is the larger obstacle that you're going to face? I'm going to take a wild stab in the dark and say that it's probably time, right? Because nobody feels like they have enough time to coach up all the skills that they want in their staff, right? But that's why this statement is so important, because it drills down into intentionally targeting a specific skill that you want to foster in an individual in order to have a specific outcome. So I also want to encourage you to think about what you need to do personally to make sure this commitment doesn't slip. And again, we all know it's how valuable time is, right? So maybe it's already putting that stuff on the calendar.
Yeah.
Maybe it's scheduling stuff ahead of time. Maybe it's just like, oh, I prepare stuff ahead of time and then I give it to them and they can work on it piecemeal, right? There are a lot of different things.
And now we just want to highlight some of these tools that we talked about throughout this session. So this completes our 4 parts of the web of sustainability, but all of these tools are in the sustainability toolkit. So they can really help you stick to those commitments that you just made. We have shared the link in the chat. So you may use those tools if you have not already. And please let us know if you would like follow-up coaching or additional training from Foundations for just hands-on support in rolling out these sustainability practices and in getting your staff really involved with this process. So now we have looked at data, funding, partnerships, and staff, and hopefully you can see how they are all working together to feed our sustainability efforts. Our contact information is here, and we will be sharing the feedback form in the chat. So as a reminder, if you would like credit for attending this live session, please complete that feedback form for us. You design these trainings and these webinars for you, so we would like to know how you felt about it. Thank you all so much for joining.